Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Nampa City Council meeting. I'd like to welcome those that are in the audience and then those that are online. It is Monday night, September 19th, and as we open our City Council meeting, we have a wonderful tradition here in the city of Nampa, and that is that we open with prayer. And I have the privilege of having Pastor Ed Weaver with Car Church. Don't ask me where that came from. Karcher Nazarene Church that's here with us this evening. Would you like to come forward and welcome?
Yes.
You're welcome to share anything you'd like to, and then thank you for opening us in prayer.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let's join together in prayer. Father, we pause because we stand in reverence of who you are. We acknowledge that you are the creator of all things, and we are a part of your creation. And as this City Council meets today, we thank you that you invite us to know your heart, to see your vision for this community, which is greater than our vision for this community, for your compassion to be among our community in a greater way than we can dream or imagine. And so you have told us to come before you, to commit our path to you, that you will make it straight, suggesting that your wisdom is greater than our wisdom. Your discernment helps us to see into people's motives and what they're wanting to do and how they're wanting to do it, to give us clarity and give us purpose in keeping the main thing, and that is the protection of our people, but the betterment of our people and our community. And Father, we thank you that our community is known throughout the state for being a community that takes care of the funds of our city, but also takes care of the people of our city, from the police to the fire department, to the city streets, to every area, and that there is a plan and a purpose to even have things as far as evacuation and provisions in case of emergency. And so I thank you for this team that stands before me, that represents our city, that says our goal, our task is to do life well and to make life better for our people. And those decisions aren't always popular, but Father, I thank you for their commitment to the purpose and to the cause that is greater than any one individual's decisions or agenda. And so we just commit this evening to you and thank you for their service to our community. Bless them, bless their families, bless their time, and give them all that they need, strength and wisdom, because of your grace to them, we pray. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Pastor Ed, we're so thankful to have you in our community. Thank you. Okay, guys, we have a couple of guests with us this evening with our Boy Scout. They're doing the pledge. And so Peter and Nathaniel, thank you so much for being here this evening and for leading us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Guys, thank you. Come back up here. Okay, Nathaniel, would you please, and we can all be seated, would you share with us why you're here this evening and what you're working on?
So we are here from Troop 112 to work on our citizenship in the community. We have been tasked with coming to a council meeting and learning about the pros and cons of a specific situation and two sides of a debate for something going on in our city.
That is wonderful. Nathaniel, would you like to share anything this evening? No? Well, I tell you what, it's great. You'll get to hear that if you stay through all the public hearings tonight. There will be great debate about which way to go. So I'm glad you're here, and you will absolutely have that opportunity. Thank you for your service, and I have a pin for you and for your leader. So here you go. Come on forward. There you go. There you go. And take this back to your...
At First Church? Is that where you still meet?
Thank you for being here this evening. Okay, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Here.
Bruner?
Here.
Sangula?
Here.
Reynolds? Here. Haverfield?
Here.
And Bauer?
Regarding proposed amendments to the agenda, we have a couple of changes to the agenda, and I just want to make sure that just in case there's someone coming this evening. Item 6.1 under new business is going to be continued to 10.3. We have 2 public hearings that are going to be continued. We will have a motion during the public hearing time for that, but they are item 7.1 and item 7.3 are both going to be continued from this evening, so they will not be taking place, just in case anyone's here wanting to participate in that public hearing. With that, I'm not aware of any other, yes?
I'm sorry, did you say 7.2 or 7.3?
7.3,
7.3.
7.1 and 7.3. But we will do specific motions as we get closer. Did I get those numbers right, Rodney? Okay, good. With that, are there any other proposed amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as noted with those changes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Pingula?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
And Bauer? Motion carries.
The next item on the agenda is the opportunity for residents of Nampa to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item. Do we have anyone signed up?
We do not.
Okay, with that, we don't have anyone signed up. Is there anyone here that had intended to speak regarding an agenda or non-agenda item this evening? Seeing no one. Okay. Well, with that, we'll move on to item 3 on the agenda, which is proclamations. So the first proclamation we have, it is Constitution Week, and I so appreciate our Daughters of the American Revolution, ladies that are always here. Thank you. I'll read the proclamation, and then Tracy, are you going to come forward? Okay. So whereas September 17th, 2022 marks the 235th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to read, to study, and celebrate America's founding documents and to protect the freedoms set forth in the Bill of Rights. Whereas it is fitting and proper to officially recognize this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas it is important to commemorate the historic anniversary and the patriotic celebrations which occur. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now therefore, I, Debbie Kling, Mayor of the City of Nampa, do hereby proclaim September 17th through 23, 2022 to be Constitution Week in Nampa, Idaho. And I ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms granted to us through this guardian of our liberties. Tracy, thank you for representing the chapter.
Thank you, Mayor Kling and council members. I serve as chapter regent of the Idaho chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution. Founded in 1890, DAR is a nonprofit, non-political, volunteer women's service organization dedicated to promoting patriotism, historical preservation, and education. It is our privilege to encourage study and to educate the public about the Constitution, which was adopted September 17th, 1787 in Philadelphia, after 4 months of writing and deliberation. 2022 marks the 67th anniversary of Constitution Week, which is celebrated from September 17th through the 23rd each year. DAR was instrumental in getting the designation and petitioned Congress for a resolution. Following the passage of both houses, President Eisenhower issued his proclamation August 19, 1955. The following year, this week of observance was signed into law. As an organization, DAR marks this annual event by requesting a proclamation from the city, as well as ringing bells in celebration, just as they did in 1787, as the news spread from one town to the next. At this time, please join me in ringing a bell as we acknowledge the importance of this founding document of our nation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and here's your proclamation. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, quick photo. Thank you. Carrie, I'm going to ask you a question. Do we have some people here that had missed the earlier piece? Thank you, I think we do. So we'll move on to our next proclamation, and then we will pause, and we may change our agenda just out of respect. So the next proclamation we have, you know what, 25% of our population in the city of Nampa is of Hispanic origins. And it happens to be the same time as our Constitutional Week is our Hispanic recognition of Hispanic Heritage Month. And I do have a proclamation, and Marty, I'll let you come forward when I'm done. So whereas each year the United States observes National Hispanic Heritage Month by celebrating the culture, heritage, and countless contributions of those whose ancestors were indigenous to North America, as well as those who came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, Central, and South America. And what began in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week under President Johnson was expanded by President Ronald Reagan in 1988 to cover a 30-day period starting September 15th and ending in October 15th. Whereas the date of September 15th is significant because it is the anniversary of independence for the Latin American countries of Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Additionally, Mexico and Chile celebrate their Independence Days on September 16 and September 18, respectively. Whereas we recognize and honor the many ways the Hispanics have enriched the fabric of our society, while also rededicating ourselves to address the lack of equal access to the opportunity that many still face. And whereas the Hispanic population of the United States is now 62.1 million, constituting 18.7% of the total population. Specifically in Nampa, the Hispanic population is now 25,329, constituting approximately 25.28% of our total population, and it represents a wide range of nationalities and backgrounds, which reflect the remarkable diversity of the American people. And whereas Hispanics continue their rich tradition of significant and diverse contributions to the cultural, educational, economic, and political vitality of Nampa, Idaho. Now, therefore, I, Deborah Kling, Mayor of the City of Nampa, Idaho, proclaim this 19th day of September 2022 as Hispanic Heritage Month, celebrating the entire month, September 15th through October 15th. And I encourage all residents to celebrate the unique and vibrant history and recommit themselves to a shared future of healthy, peaceful, safe, and sustainable communities for all. Madi, thank you for being here. Madi is the Director of Operations with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And thank you so much for being here, and I'll let you share a word with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I guess we'll do a photo.
I just want to say thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for your encouragement, your support of all of our Hispanic community, and for recognizing all the great things that our culture brings to the community and to Nampa. Thank you.
Madi, thank you for all of your work. Thank you for the work of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I let it roll off my tongue. The Chamber of Commerce has been instrumental in so much and made such a positive difference in our community and across the state of Idaho. So thank you for your work. Thank you. So, quick question. Do we have some people that had intended to speak? We have one. Okay, so we do have someone that had intended to speak, and so I'm going to go back to the open 3 minutes. Carrie, could you go ahead and have them come forward? Is that who just arrived? Okay. So I think it's Benjamin Rodriguez? Yeah. Thank you. So as you come forward, could you, again, go ahead and give us, I've got your name, so go ahead and give us your address, and then you'll have 3 minutes to share what you'd like to share with us.
My address?
Uh-huh.
It is 16249 Nampa, Idaho. So I'm here to speak on behalf of the Flores family and my sister. We just want to, we feel like we haven't had the best communication with the Nampa Police Department on this case, and we just kind of want to bring that forward because obviously, as you guys can imagine, this has been pretty hard on the family, and we just feel like we've kind of had a little bit of poor communication with the investigator and the party involved. So that's really kind of what we're trying to bring forward here, and we really want to find justice for Joey. So that's what I have.
I just want to say, first of all, thank you for coming tonight. And we fully agree with you, because we as the city of Nampa want justice for Joey. And so I appreciate Lieutenant Kimball is here, and you're welcome to schedule an appointment through him to meet with our police department. They're welcome, they're happy to visit with you. And I just want you to know that we do have literally thousands of hours already in. They jumped on this and are working very diligently. Sometimes you can't share everything while you're in process.
Right.
But I hope you know that they care. They're really good at getting to the bottom of it. And we desire the same. And I do want to say, I am so sorry. I don't know what your relationship is, but I am so sorry. It must be extremely difficult for the family and the friends. And so I just want to give our condolences to you, and that we're so sorry. And it makes me angry. And my first communication to our team was, you know what? It doesn't work when the gang conflict takes an innocent life, and that is not okay. And so we will go after the justice for Joey. Just know that we're working diligently, and we're really sorry for what you guys have walked through.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Lieutenant Kimball is at the back, and you can see him right there, and he will get a meeting scheduled for you. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you guys.
We appreciate it. You guys take care. Thank you. You're welcome to stay, or you're welcome to not stay. So don't feel awkward leaving. You don't have to.
No, thank you. We really do appreciate it. It just, like we said, somebody innocent. And so we want to make sure that everybody else in our town is safe, because we've never felt unsafe ever in our life. So, and I've been here 27 years.
I fully agree with you.
Yeah, this is his dad, and,
Oh.
we do truly
I
appreciate that.
am so sorry. I can't imagine. I tell you, our communication has been, and it was that same, as soon as I heard it, I said, you know what, this is not okay. We're going to let our gangs know, you know what, you do not kill innocent people. So we're on it and working very diligently.
No, yes. He just wanted to make sure that, everybody's aware he was a victim. We have no
Correct.
participation in any gangs or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, that's why, obviously we're here, is we
Yeah.
just want to make sure that we're safe, but also our community's safe, because I know there's a lot of people that don't feel safe right now.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people are like, what, there's gangs here? And so we just want to make sure that everybody is safe.
Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. I'm glad that you felt welcome to come. You're welcome anytime, and I appreciate your communication, and we're on it. Just so you know, we're on it. But Lieutenant Kimball will help you get a meeting scheduled if you'd like one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, take care. Thank you, guys. Thank you. You pause because it's a life that was taken that shouldn't have been taken, and that's not okay. So it just feels so trivial to step right into the business of the evening, but I have a responsibility to do so, so we will do that. As our proclamations are done, it is now time to move on to our agency and commission reports. And I think we do have one report. It's Randy Haverfield, and actually, it says Nampa Development Corp., but it's really our Historic Preservation Commission. Yeah, so go ahead, Randy.
Well, again, it's hard to follow something like that. That affects all of us when we see what's taken place in our community. But to reflect a little bit to this council, what Darrell and I get to see on a monthly basis with the Nampa Development Corporation, and what I see through my involvement with Arts and Historic Preservation and following the Design Review Commission, I just wanted to bring forward tonight so that you guys can be aware of what's taking place on the corner of 3rd Street and 12th Avenue. The parking lot that is there now, if you recall, about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, we partnered with the city, the Nampa Development Corporation partnered with the city of Nampa to do a land exchange. 2 parking lots, the one next to Fire Station Number 1 was traded to the city to allow there to be parking there in that location for the fire department and the other businesses that surround that area. And then it opened up for development purposes, 3rd and 12th, that corner, which is the right across from the library. That value of the property was right around $250,000. So the taxable value of a parking lot. So by trading with the Nampa Development Corporation, we were able to put together an RFP out on to the development community, whereas the city could not have done that. They would have just had to have sold the ground for its highest value. So anything could have happened there. So as we progressed through the process, we had an interested bank that wanted the corner. But again, as we were going through the negotiation process, another developer with a larger idea for housing and commercial development approached the Nampa Development Corporation with the idea of developing a mixed use of commercial and residential. So this is what is currently filtering through our system. Arts and Historic Preservation just approved the concept. I saw that it's now on the docket for the Design Review Commission next, and then on to the Building Department will be the next step after that. So we could see groundbreaking as early as probably next spring on this. But it's whereas, like I said, $25,000 value or $250,000 value for the ground, this is a $25 million project. So the city's going to benefit taxable value of that. Plus it brings housing to downtown, which is what we've kind of tried to encourage with a mixed use approach of housing and commercial development. So we have a live-work opportunity for those folks to live in Nampa. With the Stowe development that's happening north of the sugar beet factory, we're creating, through the Nampa Development Corporation, we're encouraging development for jobs, creation of jobs, which is, there's some major development happening out there. If you haven't been out in that area recently, you'll see that there's a very large building under construction right now. And with the Karcher Mall redevelopment housing there as well, we're seeing quite a bit of activity in Nampa, a desire to be here, a desire to invest in Nampa. So I just thought that I would bring this to your attention today and allow you to have a little bit of a glimpse of what we've been seeing for the last 2 years, year and a half, 2 years.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And then I think in the packet was the Historic Arts and Preservation Commission, the Nampa sign.
Oh, yes.
Did you want to give us an update on that?
Well, I thought I'd be best not to show what the image is yet because there has been an image that's been approved. So we're moving forward with the artist as far as to develop, make that developed concept more realistic. And there's been a desire to rotate it 90 degrees. So we're currently working with the artist on that, but that's coming forward as well. And maybe by next month, I'll be able to share that with council as well.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you.
Mayor, may I, just a quick
Yes.
question? Randy, I realize in the morning we'll probably find out an update on this. Do we have any finalization? Is the bank going in the bottom floor or has that been confirmed?
I don't have that answer for you. I know that conceptually, it's still an open commercial space.
Still open
Yeah.
to be utilized for commercial space, though?
Yes, yeah, it will be commercial development. It has to be as a mixed-use approach. And again, this is in the downtown historic district. That's why it went before the Arts and Historic Preservation Commission.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. So we do have a staff report from Tom Points this evening. Tom, thank you for joining us. Good evening.
Evening, Mayor, Council. Just got 3 items on the staff report today. So you've got our 2-page document on the progress of the wastewater treatment plant construction. Things are going well and as planned and in budget. We're actually 25% done already, if you can believe that. So things are going along nicely. Also, just give you some information about the street sweeping program we're building for downtown. So we're gonna go sweep the streets before the 3rd Thursday and get it all cleaned up so for that event. So we're just asking for citizens not to park in that area from 3 to 4 a.m. That's when we go out and do the work. And the last one is the end of the irrigation season. So Pioneer Irrigation District their board decided that we're gonna shut off water on October 3rd. And then the other two irrigation districts, Boise Cuna and Nampa Meridian, are the 28th. So Nampa Meridian is actually over 50% of the water for an entire system. So when they shut off, we have to shut off. So our crews are getting ready for that and working with the irrigation districts. I have to say that it's been a good year regardless of how it started out. And we got lucky, really. I mean, to get that much rain at the 12th hour to fill our reservoirs that was great. But I would not anticipate that to be a pattern that is always gonna happen. You know, we've been noticing the climate change and these storms coming in. You know, it's very dry winters and maybe some rain in the spring, which is the case that we had here. If you go look at the Owyhee Basin, which is just south of us, their Owyhee Reservoir is a quite large reservoir. It only has 20% of water in it right now. So that's, you know, we're looking at over 60% on ours, which is great, but like I said, we got lucky. So one of the items that for new business is adopt a drought task force plan, and so that'll be a business item that I can come up and explain more, and we get into new business.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Tom? Thank you, Tom. Appreciate your great work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move into the new business section of our agenda. And our first item was the request for reconsideration. And it has been requested to continue this item. And since it is a new business item, I don't believe we need a motion. It's just automatically we'll move to the next agenda. Would that be correct, Todd?
Madam Mayor, it's probably still good to have a motion to move it to that day.
To go ahead and move it? Okay.
Moved.
It's been moved and seconded to move item 6.1 to October 3, 2022. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Okay.
Regarding to
Brunner?
move this, do you want to vote on
Okay.
that?
Bruner?
Yes.
That's okay, we'll just skip.
Tangua?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Bauer? Yes. Haverfield?
Yes.
Perfect. Item 6.2 on the agenda is to authorize the adoption of the 2022 Nampa Pressure Irrigation Drought Response Plan. Would you like a report on that?
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and I just want to say, Jeff, a great job on the plan. It's in the packet, really good job, really appreciate the work of everyone, so thank you. Is there any discussion? Tom, thank you. You guys have just been stellar. It was on the news last night, too, which was great. Yep. Any discussion, questions?
Mayor, I'll just say, I read that whole entire package. I still have a headache from it. But it's such good information. I mean, now we know the direction that we're going to go to, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I tell you what, I'm excited is that Nampa's taking the lead in looking at drought and how we're going to respond to drought, and you guys have done an outstanding job. Thank you. Okay, if there's no further discussion, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Tangua?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Bauer? Yes. Brunner?
Yes.
And Haverfield?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 6.3 is an action item. This is to authorize the mayor to sign the memorandum of understanding between the City of Nampa and the Nampa Highway District Number 1 on general cooperation of planning and zoning, annexation, development, and maintenance activities. So legal did review it. It is approved. And would you like to hear from Crystal on it?
So move.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion? Okay, we're going to go to roll call. Sorry, Crystal, but you're off. Yeah,
Yeah, Mayor, if Crystal has something she wants to update, okay.
she's good. Okay. Roll call.
Tangua?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer? Yes. Rodriguez?
Yes.
And Brunner?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 6.4 on the agenda is the engineering's recommendation of a denial of a request of waiver of subdivision improvements for Cambridge subdivision. Would you like Daniel to come forward?
No, I'll make the motion to approve the denial of request.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, as that is that we're approving or agreeing with the recommendation of denial
Yes.
for the request of waiver for the subdivision improvements for Cambridge subdivision. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Brunner,
Yes for denial.
Zangula,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Bauer. Yes. Haverfield,
Yes.
and Rodriguez.
Yes.
Item 6.5 is an action item authorizing the drafting of an ordinance to amend the Nampa Municipal Code Title 9, Chapter 3, Section 1, roadway improvements to stipulate developers are responsible to complete all frontage improvements on collector roadways to the ultimate build-out according to the Transportation Master Plan. Would you like Daniel to come forward?
So move.
Second.
It's,
So Mayor, as a
Yes.
follow-up question then, is this going against the impact fee development dollars or not? This is, so that's, somebody shaking their head?
I'll let Daniel speak to that. Thank
Okay.
you.
So I just wanted to make sure, this is a change in policy, or is this just a amendment to the policy that's in place?
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, this would be an amendment to the existing policy. The existing policy requires developers to do full widening, curb gutter sidewalk, everything on local roadways, but not on collector and arterials. We talked about this in a workshop a couple months ago, and based on the direction we received from council, we went back to the developers and builders and had the discussion of not changing it completely to where arterials and collectors were their responsibility again, but just to collectors. They were in general agreement, happier with that proposal than the previous one. And so this was just an action item to finalize that and authorize the drafting of the ordinance, which will then come back for reading and approval.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Zangula,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Bauer. Yes. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
And thank you, Daniel. Item 6.6 is an action item. This is to authorize the mayor to sign a letter of commitment for inclusion with the application and to authorize Public Works to submit a planning application to the railroad crossing elimination plan.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Brunner,
Yes.
Zangula,
Yes.
Bauer. Yes. Haverfield,
Yes.
and Reynolds.
Yes.
And thank you, Tom. I don't see Mark, but I appreciate you guys getting this done. Thank you very much. It's important. Okay, item 6.7 is an action item. This is to authorize our Chief Information Officer to sign a 3-year Microsoft contract to renew the annual Microsoft licensing for the City of Nampa employees. This did come before us a while back for the extension of the last 4 months of this past year. And then this is the request to sign the 3-year Microsoft contract.
So move.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded, and I think you'll see that the actual contract was not included in the packet. What Butch is looking for is the authorization to move forward. He still has yet to receive the final. We will not sign it, and I'm sorry, I probably should have said this before. We won't sign it until legal has approved it, but this is the authorization to move forward based on the pricing that's in the packet. Do we need a new motion, legal, for that, or are we okay under the motion that we're,
And Mayor, I think we're okay.
okay?
So would the motion be not to exceed the amount that's listed per year?
Correct, that is, the
Correct.
amount is correct.
The amount's correct.
Place it into the agreement.
Okay.
So the authorizing that dollar amount is correct, yeah.
And this is for 3 years.
Yes.
That number is.
Go ahead and come forward. So we can't hear you on the microphone from back there.
So the number that you see there, the $306 and $537, that's an annual cost, okay? But what we're locking in for 3 years is the per license cost. So the per license cost for all of the different licensing that we have throughout the city. And our biggest one is the user licenses that everyone uses. And that cost has gone up from the previous 3-year agreement was $350 a license. It's now $377. So it's gone up about $30. which is $10 a year, which is below the inflation rates. So the original estimate that they came in with when we were 4 months ago, that we budgeted for the following year, was $362,000. Since then, we've negotiated the price down to $306,000. So we've saved the city $56,000 per year for the next 3 years.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Chingula?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer? Reynolds?
Yes.
And Brunner?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 6.8 is an action item. This is to authorize again our Chief Information Officer to sign a project agreement with Tyler Technologies for the implementation of InterGov business licensing and code enforcement modules in the ERP system with a cost not to exceed $86,205. This was approved in the FY23 budget.
So moved.
Mayor, I do have a question. Is it for Butch? So our overall contract, I realize Tyler is, it's very diversified across our whole city here. I pretty much say what I hear, and I hear that we have not always been real pleased with everything that Tyler has produced. So, so my question is how long until we reevaluate what's our contract timeline with Tyler overall?
Okay, Mayor and Councilman Brunner, I'm glad you asked that because with these two well, first of all, let me answer your first question. We're within 18 months of the renewal of the contract. Okay, it was a 7-year original contract that was signed, so we're going to be reevaluating everything, and we've started that process. For these particular modules, they can be implemented on the Munis side, which is where finance and HR and all of the main systems are that we've struggled with historically. Okay, we can also implement those modules on the EnerGov side, which is what Facility uses and has been very stable, and they've been using that for many, many years. Our proposal is to put it into the EnerGov side, and there's two benefits to that. Number one, it's in a more stable platform, and it's a platform that we think is going to live on into the future. That's not one that's in question for evaluation. And it does not cost us. It's included in the licensing costs that we're already paying over there. If we put it on the Munis side, we'd have to pay for those modules separately. So we're saving the city money by putting it on the EnerGov side in addition to putting it on a more stable platform.
Great explanation. Thank you.
This is the implementation of those projects, but InterGov has been a good platform for us.
Good.
And
Yes.
we've had it
I'm glad to
for,
hear the positive about that part.
yeah, it's the InterGov piece that's good.
Yes.
Mary Kling,
Great, yes.
I have a question.
Okay.
Butch, we met about 6 months ago, and I was, of course, I'm not a follower for Tyler. And for reasons being that their agreement, they haven't held up to. And so I also asked that how many hours you and your staff spend fixing Tyler when there's issues, rather than them fixing it. So out of the budget that you have regarding the Tyler, I've yet to see the number that you spend having to fix their problems.
Councilman Rodriguez, the amount of time to spend on that would be an estimate at best, and it would probably be incorrect. Most of the work that's done when the Tyler system gives us problems is supported on their side. We call them and we work with them to solve those problems. So the cost would be the delay for the people that are using it, which we have no real way of measuring that accurately. That's our challenge.
Yeah. And I wonder whether these two new modules are going to be connected to the base of Tyler that's going to cause that problems if it goes wrong as well. If there's fingers to it.
Again, with putting it in the EnerGov side, we do not expect those things to happen because we've seen very good performance from the EnerGov side. Plus, the support on that side has been significantly higher in their response times and their ability to get things fixed.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Discussion? Thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Rodriguez?
No.
Brunner?
Yes.
Chingula?
No.
Bauer? Yes. Reynolds?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Item 6.9 is an action item, and this is to request approval for the Family Justice Center to reapply for the Stop Violence Against Women grant in the amount of approximately $150,000 from the Idaho State Police to fund sexual assault exam services, and this was approved in the FY23 budget.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Jangula?
Yes.
Bauer? Yes. Reynolds?
Yes.
And Haverfield.
Yes.
Item 6.10 is an action item. This is to request approval for the Family Justice Center to reapply for the Stop Violence Against Women grant in the amount of approximately $120,000 from the Idaho State Police to fund the advocacy and crisis counseling, and this is approved in the FY23 budget.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Jangula?
Yes.
Bauer? Yes. Haverfield?
Yes.
And Reynolds.
Yes.
Item 6.11 is an action item, and this is to request, got to get my mouth to work, request approval for the Family Justice Center to receive an annual grant award in the amount of $275,805 from the Idaho Council on Domestic Violence and Victim Assistance. This is a division of the Department of Health and Welfare to fund ongoing victim services, and it is approved in the FY23 budget.
So moved. Second. I have a
been-
question.
Yes.
Moving forward, I know that there's a need for a youth trauma center, a crisis center. Are these positions or the dollars for these last three grants, can they be used for positions in that facility if it's developed?
I'll let Jeannie speak to that. I won't try to guess.
Okay.
I'll let her, the expert, speak.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. The money that we are asking for is something that we already have, these grants we already have. We are reapplying, well, this one that, the grant that is awarded is this ends September 28th. We reapplied for that start in October for the next year to fund the people we already have. So we're not adding more people to our staff.
So if a youth or a trauma center is developed, is that new employees that would need to be hired for that? So a staffing need, long-term, would be needed for that facility?
Potentially, if that's through the Family Justice Center, potentially.
So there's nothing saying that it would necessarily be through the Nampa Family Justice Center then?
Not at this point, I haven't heard
Okay.
that. It's possible that maybe we could move a person over there.
Okay. I know that it's a topic that's being considered and talked about right now, so just want to be aware. Thank you.
We're a little bit a ways out, and one thing that's positive is the wonderful collaboration that will take place with the Family Justice Center and the Teen Crisis Center. And so there'll be great collaboration. As far as how we fund positions for there, it'll be a discussion that takes place because they probably won't be up and running for another year, I would guess. It'll take a while. Could be faster than that, but that'll be a discussion.
Yes.
Future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you
all
so
your
much.
work, Jeannie.
Thank
You guys do amazing work. Thank you. You've got a great team.
Thanks. We do.
So we do have a motion and a second on the table. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Jangula?
Yes.
Bauer? Yes. Haverfield?
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
It's actually a wonderful thing that we're through all of our new business items, and we're going to skip over to unfinished business, which is section 8 on the agenda. And item 8.1 is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance for annexation and zoning to RS6 and a subdivision preliminary plat for Bodel Farms subdivision at 17862 Madison Avenue for Landmark Pacific Development. And it is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Idaho, determining that certain lands commonly known as 17862 Madison Avenue, Nampa, Idaho, comprising approximately 5.12 acres, more or less, lay contiguous to the limits of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, State of Idaho, and that said lands should be annexed into the City of Nampa and be zoned RS6, declaring that said lands by proper legal description as described below to be part of the City of Nampa, determining that said annexation and zoning are in the best interest of the public and consistent with the comprehensive plan of the city, directing the city engineer and planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the City of Nampa, and to designate said property as RS6 on the official zoning map and other area maps of the city, providing for recordation, providing for severability, providing an effective date, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and directing the city clerk to file a certified copy of the ordinance and map of the area to be annexed with Canyon County, State of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code Section 63215.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to pass the ordinance as read under suspension of rules.
Second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Jengula?
Yes.
Bauer? Reynolds?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Item 8.2 is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance for annexation and zoning to RS6 and a potential development agreement at 11030 West Orchard Avenue for the Nampa Church of the Brethren, and it is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
Need to read.
Oh.
Read it first.
You're there, but you're going to get it first. We're good.
I'll second your motion. After it's read.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Idaho, determining that certain lands commonly known as 11030 West Orchard Avenue, Nampa, Idaho, comprising approximately 3.97 acres, more or less, lay contiguous to the limits of the City of Nampa, Canyon County, State of Idaho, and that said lands should be annexed into the City of Nampa and be zoned RS6, declaring said lands by proper legal description as described below to be part of the City of Nampa, determining that said annexation and zoning are in the best interests of the public and consistent with the comprehensive plan of the city, directing the city engineer and planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the City of Nampa, to designate said property as RS6 on the official zoning map and other area maps of the city, providing for recordation, providing for severability, providing an effective date, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and directing the city clerk to file a certified copy of the ordinance and map of the area to be annexed with Canyon County, State of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code Section 63215.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Angola?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
And Bauer.
It is a rare occasion when we are done with the business prior to the public hearing posted time. So we have a few minutes. We could take a break. You know what we could do? We could adjourn into executive session. Let's do that. Okay? So let me get to that piece real quickly. I would stand for a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061FNJ. This 1F is to communicate with legal counsel for the public agency to discuss legal ramifications or legal options for pending litigation controversies not yet being litigated, but imminently likely to be. And Idaho Code 742061J to consider labor contract matters authorized under Section 74206A, 1A, and B of Idaho Code.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Brunner?
Yes.
Jengula?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer? Rodriguez?
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
So we will be back in just approximately 10 minutes, and so just hang tight. Okay, we'll be starting in about 2 minutes. Okay, I think we're ready to start. And so we're going to move into our public hearing segment. And item number 7.1, we already have. Okay, so 7.1 on our public hearings, the applicant did request a continuance to the November 7 meeting, and I would stand for a motion to approve that continuance and move this item to November 7. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Dingula?
Yes.
Bauer? Reynolds?
Yes.
And Haverfield.
Yes.
Item 7.2 is an action item. This is the pre-annexation and zoning to RS 22, a single-family residential, and a development agreement for Victory Springs subdivision. This is located at 7722 East Victory Road. It's a 10.3-acre parcel for Black Summit, and this is continued from the August 15th meeting. Is our applicant here this evening? Hi, would you like to come forward and give us your name? And go ahead and tell us what you're wanting to do. Give us your name and address, and we'll have about 10 minutes. Thank you.
Madam Mayor and Council, my name is Bob Hunter. Hunger Enterprises, our location is 962 West Arnold Road, Boise, 2714. And I represent Black Summit Subdivision. And we are requesting a pre-annexation agreement and zoning to the RS 22, single-family residential, and which I understand requires a development agreement.
Yes. Can I have you pause for 1 second? Mark, is this mic on? It is. Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Can we speak up a little louder?
Yeah,
Not
it's,
now.
I just don't think anyone on Teams would have caught, and for our recording, would that be correct? So do you mind starting over again since your mic was not on? I'm so sorry.
Sure, not a
Thank you.
problem,
Go ahead and
Madam
give
Mayor.
us your name
Yeah.
again, and so you get to say that all over again.
Bob Unger with Unger Enterprises. Our address is 9662 West Arnold Road, Boise, Idaho 83714. And we represent the Black Summit subdivision. And as stated in the notice, we are requesting a pre-annexation and zoning to RS 22, which is single-family residential, which I understand requires a development agreement, which my clients are more than glad to do. The project is on 10.13 acres, located on Victory Road, West Victory Road. Originally, we were proposing 14 dwelling units. We have reduced that to 13 dwelling units after our hearing with the Planning and Zoning Commission. It was noted that we didn't have sufficient open space to meet city requirements. So we dropped it to 13 lots, and now we can meet the requirements for open space. We are proposing 3 private lanes, and of course, this is a county application also. But our private lanes are built to Nampa City standards, and our access is off of Victory Road. We are also proposing to extend city water to the project and throughout the project, and that's coming from the west. Belmont Heights is approximately 300 feet extension to the property. We are proposing pressurized irrigation. The irrigation is from Nampa Meridian Irrigation District, but we are working with Belmont Heights HOA to tie into their system and upgrade their system so it would, take care of theirs and ours, and they are having some issues with their irrigation system, so hopefully we'll be able to help them. And that pretty much sums up the project. It's a fairly simple project. And I'll stand for any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions at this time? As you very well may know, we'll have you back at the conclusion of the public hearing time to provide any final comments and to answer any questions at that time. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll move on to the staff report. And Doug Critchfield's with us this evening. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Doug Critchfield with Planning and Zoning. This is the first pre-annexation that's come before the council. This is, I have to amend the subject. We received legal counsel that we cannot at this time specify a zone for this project, but it would be specified when the houses when the properties are eventually annexed. So I wanted to make that clarification on the subject. In terms of, I just wanted to walk through with you just a little bit about how these pre-annexations work. And I promise you that once you have it down the first time, I won't repeat it unless you ask questions about it the next time it comes up. Currently, we are under a joint exercise of powers agreement. This was done in 1998, and the county sends us referrals. When they receive an application, we get a referral, and we're allowed to comment on that referral for projects within the area of impact. When that referral comes to us, we provide comments, and then the county then is by definition supposed to give great weight to our comments. So what we have to say is important to the county in their decision making. For this subdivision, given its distance from city limits, we are requiring a pre-annexation agreement. This pre-annexation is enshrined in City Code in Chapter 2 of Title 10. And there are 4 items that we are utilizing to determine whether this is an appropriate subdivision or not. First, we have to determine if it's it follows the guidelines of the Nampa Comprehensive Plan and the future land use map and the limitations that are associated with that. Secondly, if the project proposal meets city standards and code requirements as if it were developing in the city. Thirdly, that the Board of Appraisers has recommended the utility connections. And fourth, that the project is not adjacent to city limits. As a condition of the pre-annexation, the developer then is required to ensure that the purchasers of the future properties, the 13 lots that will be in this subdivision, that they are informed by the title company as well as in the CCNRs that they will be annexed once the property becomes, or the subdivision becomes adjacent to annexed city property. They'll also be required to pay early annexation fees to cover the city's future costs for annexation, as well as any other fees associated with the project. And as was noted, water is available to this project. There's a 12-inch main line on Victory Road. So the process, we've been through the Planning and Zoning Commission on this project as if it were an annexation. The recommendation from Planning and Zoning was recommend to approve. The Board of Appraisers have also reviewed the application for the connection to city utilities, and they have recommended approval. If approved tonight, the developer applicant will be required to enter into an agreement of hookup Victory Springs subdivision to the City of Nampa water system, an agreement to be annexed into the City of Nampa. In that agreement, that essentially is the development agreement, and the conditions will be associated with that agreement. It will also require payment of all the fees that were talked about earlier. If the council decides this evening that this project is not to be approved, the city will issue a letter to Canyon County indicating that the application was denied and that we will oppose the project being developed in the county. If it is approved, then we will send a letter of support for the application to the county. Forgot to mention that. Quickly through the findings, we found that the first finding that it does meet the comprehensive and future land use map in terms of the densities and the lot size range, and we agree with the Planning and Zoning Commission's conclusion. Secondly, it does meet city standards. There's a 25-foot landscape buffer proposed on this project. A 50-foot right-of-way dedication is proposed, is required by engineering. 15.1% open space is being proposed, and that it does meet the city codes in regards to the plat. In terms of the Board of Appraisers, on July 6th, the appraisers reviewed and approved the application. And then the project is 1.6 miles from city limits, so it's definitely not within adjacent to city limits. We did receive correspondence, which is stated in your staff report. Of note, a citizen, Mr. Jim Little, a resident in the area, indicated concerns about smaller lots and the potential for incompatibility with existing properties in the area. The conditions of approval then are stated in your staff report, and I have a motion for you, and I'd be glad to take any questions.
Doug, thank you. Are there any questions for Doug?
Mayor, go ahead.
Did you hear from the school district at all in regards to this?
We did not hear from the school district. Yeah.
What school district is it?
This would be Nampa School
be Nampa.
District.
Yeah, which way we'd be fine. Yeah.
I think right now, it's our understanding that they're not dealing with capacity issues.
Yeah. So, Mayor, if I may, just clarifications. You said how far from being contiguous to sit at 1 point some miles?
Yes, Mayor.
So
Councilmember.
currently, so this would not be annexed, this is a pre-annexation, would not be annexed until it is contiguous to city limits,
Correct.
which we have no idea what that timeline may be.
We have no
And what I heard you say also, that a developer and any potential buyers, how would they be communicated that they would be annexed into the city of Nampa? How would that be communicated?
Yeah, so the Mayor, Councilman Brummer, the city will notify the property owners that they are now contiguous and that they'll be required to annex, and the fees will have been paid for the city to go through the annexation process of all 13 lots at one time. At that time of annexation, then they will be zoned accordingly.
Okay, so this does not prevent them from currently developing these lots in the county?
No, the intent of the pre-annexation is to allow for development to occur now versus in the future.
So to a certain extent, and I have not been out this way or not that familiar, but so what else is out there from a county residential standpoint?
Rodney, you brought up the.
And yeah, I'm probably in the packet, and I probably just did not focus on it, but.
It's okay.
What I'm always been, have spoken is I'm not in favor of sprawl.
Yeah.
And
This has some subdivisions
That's
right
what I
next
wanna
to
know,
it
yeah.
with very similar lot sizes.
Okay, and I'm fine if there's already subdivisions out there, so, okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Yes.
So 1.6 miles away from city limits, but you said water and sewer is fairly readily accessible. How far away is it?
According to the engineering report, it was 160 feet.
160 feet.
Yes.
Is that sewer or water?
Water.
Water, not
Yeah,
sewer.
not sewer.
These will be on septic systems.
So is that water and sewer in the Nampa City municipal system?
The water, Mayor and Councilman Haverfield, the water is in the city system. There is no sewer out in this area.
So is it on city property then, or within the city limits of Nampa?
No, and Daniel, it looks like.
Thank you, Daniel.
So we have services that are in the county, municipal services that are in the county and not within the city limits?
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, in a number of areas we do. This specific area was originally developed as a united water system, and then back in 2005, when we had some capacity issues, we worked with United Water to purchase their systems, as well as us needing capacity. We also wanted to not have United Water within our future service area. And so we have had this system in place. We purchased that in 2005. There are a few other areas south of town, different developments that over the years have been approved to have city services outside city limits with the same types of agreements, such that at such time as they become contiguous, we will go through the annexation process, and the properties have already agreed to be annexed into the city.
So looking at the map that's on the screen, the blue line, is that current water systems?
Those are in-the-ground existing water system.
And CUNA School, the CUNA School that's indicated there, is that an actual school or just CUNA School District?
That's just the CUNA School District.
Okay, so my original thought was, why aren't they looking to annex into the city of CUNA as opposed to the city of Nampa? But
They are within our impact area and within Canyon County. And so the school district boundary has a small little pocket that comes in into Canyon County for whatever reason when the CUNA School District was developed.
so the north-south collector there, or whatever road that is that Robinson Road, or is
That's
that?
McDermott, so that's the
McDermott.
county line.
So that is right on the county line?
Yep.
Okay. So, okay.
That is so much closer to Nampa schools than CUNA schools, it's crazy.
Right.
But
Mayor?
that shouldn't be taken into consideration in our decisions, right? But yes, thank you, Todd.
I was just going to add, thank you, Mayor. Yes, but I was going to answer, or maybe expound, I should say, on Darrell's, Councilmember Bruner's comment. As far as the annexation of this property in the future, Doug talked about notifying folks, but that pre-annexation agreement will not only notify property owners, but require that they be annexed when it becomes contiguous, and that's recorded. So when somebody buys their piece of property, it comes, they see that agreement, they know if they're buying that piece of property, they're agreeing to be annexed in the future.
And that sits in the title agreement, correct? It'll be at the title
that'll-
company.
That'll come in the title
Title
report.
work.
They provide all those documents.
Yeah.
Mayor.
And actually, yes.
So do you know where LB Foster's plant is in relation to this property? Is it directly north?
What is that?
It's a fab plant for modular building or
It's
concrete
not the
structures.
Thuson's property?
The
gravel
concrete
pit?
plant and LB Foster,
It's quite a bit north of this. It's probably,
half a
is it
mile
only a
north?
half a mile?
Is it directly north? Okay. So in time, obviously,
It's a
we're going
mile.
to see more growth of Nampa out to that boundary
Absolutely.
line. And LB Foster is an example of a plant that was developed with that in mind.
I
Very
think the
clean.
pre-annexation agreement personally is a really wise way to go. But actually, I'm not to share my opinion at this point, so excuse me.
Mayor Kling,
Yes.
thank you. I have two questions, one for Todd. So, Todd, did you just say that neighboring residences would have to be or would be forced to? No, you didn't say that.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Rodriguez, I was talking about just the lots in this subdivision.
Oh, I see.
So the agreement is recorded against this property, and they would be annexed in the future. They're agreeing to it when they buy the
Okay,
lot.
that's what, okay, thanks for clarifying that. So Doug, it says here that on this July 6th, the Napa Board of Appraisers reviewed the application for water service connection for this subdivision, and the Board of Appraisers recommended approval or agreement for hookup of Victory Springs subdivision to the city of Nampa. So I don't see the cost here, how much it would be, but I also like to know what Councilman Haverfield said was how far is this hookup going to go to the existing water line, and would we have to pay for that? You just stay up there, Daniel.
Mayor, Councilman Rodriguez, as Doug stated, it's about 160 feet from the existing location to the edge of this property. The developer will be required to install that and fund that. There would be no cost to the city to have this be served by us.
Okay, and this is also, goes also for sewer, correct?
We do not have sewer currently there. Would only be service of water. They would be on septics.
Okay, well, it brings up another issue then. Would we have to approve, like the one subdivision on Southside has, each residence has their own sewer pump? Is that what they're going to install in there?
No, Mayor, Councilman Rodriguez, these would be just septic systems like you would see in any county development. They are not proposing any type of on-site treatment facility or grinder pumping system. That's not what's being proposed here.
Okay, good, thank you. That was good.
Mayor Daniels, I would just, so future subdivisions coming in here between this area, is there latecomers, then are they gonna, is this development eligible for latecomers?
Mayor, Councilman Bruner, there would be nothing of a size that would
So it's not, doesn't
warrant
doesn't merit it.
latecomers or
Doesn't
anything
merit it.
for
Okay,
this. Yeah.
thanks.
Councilman Haverfield?
I'm not sure if it's a question for maybe Doug, but the whole idea of a pre-annexation is not, actually, they're annexing at this point. It's just a promise in the future that they will, once the city limits catches up to this parcel. So what's the benefit to the city at this point to do this or to allow this to take place?
Yeah, Mayor, Councilmember Haverfield, in the past, when we have received these applications from the county, we provide comments indicating that we oppose the project because it doesn't meet the comprehensive plan. This gives us an opportunity to have the subdivision meet the comprehensive plan density levels and all the requirements that would be required to build a subdivision as if it were in the city, so that when it's annexed in, it's automatic. It prevents us from getting into a situation where we create incompatibility with adjacent properties.
Okay. So I understand the logic behind that. So is there something solid then in allowing this to take place that they can't pull out later on and say, no, we're going to go ahead and be a part of Meridian or CUNA?
This is a recorded agreement.
Okay.
with the property
So they can't back out of it once they've, without our approval?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Doug, thank you. Great job. Really appreciate it. Okay, so this is a public hearing, and we do not have anyone signed up other than our applicant to testify on behalf of this issue. Is there anyone here that had intended to testify on this hearing? Seeing no one in, Rodney and Doug, is there anyone online that we don't show anyone signed up at all? Nope.
No, Mayor.
Thank you for looking. Okay, with that, this is an opportunity for applicant to come back, and you've heard a number of questions being asked, and this is your opportunity to give a closing comment before we close public hearing.
Madam Mayor and Council, Bob Unger again. I think, staff's really covered this well, and I know it's an unusual application, even to us, so we had to sit down with Doug and figure out how to make this work. And really, the only thing that I'm hearing is the concern that, how do these future buyers know that they're going to be annexed when they become contiguous to the city? And yes, the development agreement would be a recorded document, but we will also place a note on the final plat that will be recorded that will acknowledge the annexation agreement and the recording document number of that agreement. So there can't be any confusion. People can't go, oh, I didn't know that was going to happen. Well, we hear that all the time in the real estate business too. So, but in this particular case, it will be recorded and it will be on the plat, and any title company will pull that up and provide that information. Other than that, I'll stand for any other questions that you might have.
Mayor.
Thank you. Yes,
So,
Councilman.
Mr. Unger, I thought I heard you said early on that there'll be 13 dwelling units?
Correct.
Okay. The packet says 14, but that's not correct. It'll be 13.
Right, Mr. Haverfield. We did provide an amended plat for staff to review with the 13 acres. And that's how they were able to acknowledge that we had the 15% open space.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, council, as long as there are no other questions for the applicant, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Council discussion.
Mayor, I'll make, I know Randy is always good at these, but I'll make the motion and then can adjust if need be. I move to approve the pre-annexation and future zoning to RS22, single-family residential, and the agreement for hookup of Victory Springs subdivision to the city water system to be paid by the developers, and agreement to be annexed into the city of Nampa for Victory Springs subdivision at 7722 East Victory Road with all the conditions of approval listed in the staff report.
Mayor, if I might just have Councilmember Brunner take a little closer look at the motion to approve. We
Read
aren't-
it off the right here in front.
I was reading it off this.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there a change?
Yeah, we can't, as Doug mentioned, we
I
can't
can't
establish.
add things to it?
Well, we can't establish zoning right now. We don't have jurisdiction to say what the property will be zoned. And the county, it's a county application, so what we'll do
Okay,
is.
so is what on the potential motion pre-annexation, this is not the same as what's on here?
That's because he was with the recognition that what was in your packet was referencing zoning, and we cannot do zoning on a
Okay, so I would
pre-annexation,
amend my,
this one-
motion that it does not assume any type of zone at this point in time, since it's a pre-annexation agreement. And I guess I will just add too that this is, just so we all know, that it is 13 lots, not 14. Is that okay? Or not?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Brunner, that's okay. What we'll do is include some language in there that when it is annexed, that it will be consistent with the existing use that's approved, so and that's consistent with our comprehensive plan. We just can't specify what it is currently. But
And I'm
we'll
always in
provide
favor of
some.
my verbiage being edited, so that's good.
And I'll second that after that verbiage.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Rodney, did you have a comment? Or-
No, Mayor, we were just saying the same things that Todd just mentioned.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilman Haverfield?
So there was some comment about adjoining subdivisions and CC&Rs of those adjoining subdivisions. I thought I heard something mentioned along those lines. Is that something that we need to take into consideration as a part of a development agreement or not?
I see a shaking head no.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I'd
thought
like to
heard
just
that
make,
mentioned.
one comment quickly, and that is, I think this is a really good idea, and I appreciate the fact that we're looking at these pre-annexation agreements so that when the properties do come in, they're adhering to the city standards, and it really helps us with our planning long-term. So thank you for that. I appreciate the willingness to go ahead and do that and to develop according to what our guidelines are. So thank you very much. I think it's a great idea.
Mayor.
Yes.
And I'll just follow up too. I think it's good that we're seeing that vision of opening up that southern corridor, because if we do work and are able to develop a southern extension off of the Highway 16 attachment to the interstate, this would be right there in that developed area.
Yes. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Jengula?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Bauer? Yes. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so we are moving to, let's see, 7.3 on the agenda. And this was requested to be continued, I believe. Look at my notes. To November the 3rd, and I would stand for a motion to continue item 7.3 to November the 3rd.
So moved.
Excuse me, October the 3rd, excuse me.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Jengula?
Yes.
Bauer? Yes. Haverfield?
Yes.
And Reynolds?
Yes.
We're ready for public hearing action item 7.4. This is to consider amending ordinance 2647, section 5 regarding the downtown business improvement district fees. This is providing for the assessment and definition of parking lots, providing a definition of vacant buildings, and lots and providing for assessment of vacant buildings and lots at 110%, excuse me, of the standard assessment rate. This was reviewed, it's my understanding, by legal and was approved by legal. So Patrick, you are our applicant and our staff report tonight.
Mayor and council, this action dovetails into the ordinance that you'll see on October 3rd for the vacant building registry. We pushed that back because of an error in the notification, but this one's going forward, and we've worked close with the BID with their desire to increase the fee to 110% of the regular fee for vacant buildings and lots, and then also provide further definition that wasn't in the original ordinance for a definition for a vacant building and then also a vacant lot. So I'll stand for any questions.
Are there any questions for Patrick regarding this item? No. Okay. So this is a public hearing, if that's it for you, Patrick, for now. Okay, this is a public hearing, and do we have anyone signed up to testify?
We do. Matt Lind?
Good evening, Matt. Thank you for being here. Thank you for restating your name and sharing your address.
Yes, Matthew Lind. I'll put up the address on record is 1213 and 1/2 First Street South in Nampa, Idaho. Madam Mayor, members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to say a couple of comments. First of all, I'd like to thank the Office of the Mayor, Economic Development, and the Building Department for working closely with our organization in finding some solutions to keep up our momentum and revitalizing our downtown core. I know there's some members of the council here who've worked extensively with us as well to make sure that attention's been given to our needs. So thank you for that. As was just mentioned, this goes hand in glove with the city's ongoing efforts to address some of the vacant building issues. They'll be coming before you a vacant building ordinance, which will hopefully add to our collective effort to disincentivize some of the vacancy issues we're experiencing downtown. As you may have noticed, this is a kind of a pressing issue for our businesses. This is brought on by both vacant ownership done for speculation and then to a certain degree absentee ownership as well. But the net result is the same, and that is vacant storefronts, which does not drive the economic prosperity and the vitality we're trying to bring to our downtown core. As a means of moving that out of our zone, we are seeking to disincentivize that through various ways, and one of that is to remove the standing exception granting a cut in the standard assessment rate for buildings that are vacant. You'll notice that we have tried to make exception for properties in the redevelopment process because we want to be careful of that and encourage that. But other than that, we are trying to keep things headed in the right direction and keep our momentum going. So I speak in support of that and appreciate your efforts.
Matt, I would just like to say thank you. Thank you for leading the BID and being a key part of both the Main Street and the BID, but thank you for actually advocating on behalf to the City Council on behalf of what we need to do to help you guys succeed. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you guys have any questions for Matt? Okay. Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else that had intended to testify on this particular issue? Seeing no one, actually, this would be applicant rebuttal time, and it is the city. So staff or council, do you have any questions for staff?
I do.
You do, okay?
So if Patrick can come back up. Just wanting to understand what we're talking about here. It talks about a levy rate of 6.6 cents per square foot of lot area. And I would assume the building area is separate from that. Is there a separate calculation for an actual business located on a piece of property? Or how does that levy rate work for a business that's either occupied, not occupied, or a bare piece of ground? And then further on in item D, it talks about parking lots within the district shall be assessed 1/2 the rate of full assessment. So is that 3.3 cents per square foot? So that's just a couple of questions.
Okay, Mayor and Councilman Haverfield, the 6.6 cents per square foot is not a change to the existing ordinance. That's just part of the existing ordinance, and that's been in effect for many years. And that's for the square foot of the lot. and then calculate in accordance with the following, and then they give directions. If it's only a ground level business, it's apportioned to each business on the basis of that amount of total lot area that they occupy. So if you have a 5,000 square foot building on a 6,000 square foot lot, they would be occupying that 5,000 square foot for buildings.
Okay.
And then there's a case with buildings with upper and lower stories, where you divide the lot area by the apportioned area by the first floor, second floor, or third floor, so it's additive.
So can I stop you there for a second? So we're talking about a new building being developed on the corner of 3rd and 12th, 6 stories in height. How are they assessed for their building?
Well, it's calculated on the lot area.
Okay.
And so then it's their percentage of lot area that they occupy. So if each has a third, if the building is, it's kind of wonky, because the way it works is their assessed amount derived equally by dividing the total lot area assessed amongst all businesses within the building. So it would just be equally within, between like an upper and lower story. So each business assessed amount derived equally by dividing the total lot area by amongst all businesses. So if there's 10 businesses, they divide the fee by 10.
So is it only businesses or residential uses exempt?
I think it's just businesses.
Okay, so
on
if the
this,
main
because it's
level-
a business improvement district, so it's just commercial
Okay,
lots, not residential
and that's
lots.
based upon the lot area then?
It's based on the lot area,
Okay.
and then it's calculated by these different scenarios that are in the text below.
That was what was confusing to me. I'm not familiar with how this process works downtown. Fortunately, I'm not there. I'm on the corner. I'm on the fringe, so.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other questions at this time for staff? Thank you, Patrick.
Mayor, I would like
Yes.
to recommend that if it is approved, that we approve under suspension of rules.
Yes, so we will, if this is approved, we will do a roll call, then we'll move immediately to the first reading of ordinance
Okay.
under suspension of rules. So at this time, if there are no further questions, I'd like to stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What is the will of the council or discussion?
Go ahead.
Yes, Councilman Bauer?
I don't like, I'm not a big fan of government intervention, but I do like this idea. Vacant buildings are just really, really destructive for our downtown. So it's just kind of how I feel. I think I'm in support. Try to clean this up.
And I agree with that, too. I think the longer buildings can stay vacant, the more of a potential there is for not only fires to happen within them, but just general crime in and around them. So if this helps incentivize the property owner to either sell the building or develop it, I think that's a step in the right direction.
Okay, any other comments? So,
Go ahead.
Well, so I'm
Do
just-
we make a motion or not before?
well, it's interesting because typically there's a motion to approve. Here, we don't have a motion, but we do have the first reading of ordinance. I would prefer to have a motion and then go to the first reading of ordinance. So because we don't have a motion on the screen, I would suggest it would be that we approve the recommended assessment, this assessment fee change as recommended.
So is this number
At the-
2647 officially then?
Yes.
Ordinance and then be amended?
Amending
as
ordinance,
followed-
section 5.
As recommended by staff.
Yeah, there you go. Go for it.
You already did. I'll second it.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Angula?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
And Bauer.
And the next action item is the first reading of ordinance, amending ordinance 2647, section 5 for the downtown business improvement district fees, and it is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
So moved.
Oh, we've got to, do you have the
Gotta
first
read
reading
it.
of
I gotta read
ordinance?
it, don't we?
Yeah, he's got to read it, sorry.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Idaho, amending ordinance 2647, section 5, providing for the assessment and definition of parking lots, providing a definition of vacant buildings and lots, and providing for the assessment of vacant buildings and lots at 110% of the standard assessment rate.
So moved as read under suspension of rules.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Angula?
Yes.
Bauer? Reynolds?
Yes.
And Haverfield.
Yes.
All right, Matt, thank you so much for being here this evening. Thank you for testifying. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good job, Matt.
Yeah. Okay, next item on the agenda is 7.5. This is an action item. This is to consider amending Title III, Chapter 7, the Streets Development Impact Fees, as this was approved by legal. And Patrick, thank you for presenting to us.
Mayor and council, if you recall, back in April, we approved 6 of the 7 proposed impact fees, and we held off on approving the streets impact fee because we needed to coordinate the right-of-way for collectors that Daniel presented to you as an action item earlier tonight. So now that that's been done, what we're bringing to your attention is to consider amending Title III, Chapter 7 of the Streets Development Impact Fee Ordinance. And I'll call your attention, the main body or up in Section 2, we're getting rid of the old impact fee study that from 2016 that referenced the previous streets fees, since we no longer need that. And then we are also under exemptions. We have always exempted fire department and city buildings from development impact fees as a matter of policy, but we have decided that we would like to have that actually in the ordinance so that it's codified, rather than it just being up to the impact fee administrator to make that call on each individual basis. It makes it easier, so to give us some guide rails on what we're supposed to do. Also, what we did on that item 12 below that is we've also historically charged nonprofits like hospitals, public schools, medical office buildings, other nonprofit businesses we have not exempted them from development impact fees, and we'd like to continue doing that. However, in recent years, state code has made it so that in the case of charter schools, you have to actually state in your ordinance whether or not you're going to charge or exempt charter schools. So that's why we're doing this. And the benefit of that is you at least get the streets fees up front, since you won't get maintenance dollars in the future. So we've also done that. And then there is one error that I actually found this evening on one of the fees, and I've discussed it with Todd Lakey, and it's the multifamily residence, and I'll just go through all the fees. So single-family residences are, they were $2,841. They would be going to $3,000 per unit, and that's a 6% increase. Multifamily residences, even though it says $3,000 in your packet copy, it's actually, per the study, is $1,470, which is an 11% decrease. And then retail is an increase from $6.85 per square foot building area to $7.42. Office per square foot building area is going from $4.24 to $3.49, which is an 18% decrease. And industrial per square foot building is going from $1.52 per square foot to $1.20. Again, this is a 10-year forecast on the anticipated growth that's going to happen in the next 10 years, and allocating what we think the growth in each of those sectors is going to be, and that's how the math derives these fees.
So, Patrick, as based on what you're seeing in the growth, but I guess I know this isn't a very popular comment, but I have a question of why we would be decreasing a fee that is already established when we know that we have a shortfall on streets.
Mayor, the way the math works is we figure out who is coming in the next 10 years, and we actually work with planning and zoning on what they have currently approved, and we look at the comprehensive plan, and we look at what our prospective growth is going to be in single-family, multifamily, office, retail, and industrial. And then each one of those is then, after Galena Consulting goes through all that, they figure out where those growth sectors are going to be as a percentage. And then they use that percentage to figure out what the 10-year capital plan is going to be. And let's say it's $20 million. And then they'll say, well, single-family residence is going to be 25% of that. And maybe industrial is going to be, 15% of that. And retail is going to be 30%, whatever those numbers might be. But we have to go through the math, and then we have to adopt the methodology that is in the front end of that study, which we've already done. And then we adopt that, and then we actually do look at it every year, and every 2 years we actually do another study. So we do monitor this along the way.
So in that there is a significant decrease, from what was on here, which was an error, but there is a decrease of about $200 per unit on multifamily residents. Is that because we're seeing a slow or because we're seeing an increase?
It is the, Mayor, it's because of the 10-year outlook on what we think we're going to have, given if we're getting, I can't recall the total amount without going back, but let's say we're getting 22,000 new people with, an average of, 3.2 people per household. That figures out how many.
Well, are you saying, so because there is a decrease, is it because you're seeing an increase in multifamily residences or a decrease in them that we're reducing the impact?
We're seeing a slight increase in those, and we're seeing a decrease in single family.
So because we're seeing a decrease in single family, we're increasing the impact fee. And because we're seeing an increase in multifamily, we're decreasing the cost per unit.
We're seeing in real time an increase and a decrease, but this is a trend that is a flat calculation over what we think based on number of people coming from the census and from, and then also from the regional planning. We pull the numbers on what we think how many people are going to be moving into Nampa in the next 10 years, and we associate a certain percentage of commercial to that population as well.
Right.
And so
it just seems
it's
counterintuitive to my head, and I'm
Right,
sorry.
yeah.
It seems counterintuitive to me that we're seeing an increase in multifamily, therefore, because they're the greatest impact, therefore we're decreasing the per unit fee. So help me, I'm just missing something there.
But over time, it's a 10-year calculation,
Right.
and it's cyclical. Right now, we're seeing a decrease in single family, likely because of higher prices and then also interest rates going up. But over a 10-year period, we could have a slowdown, we could have another uptick where we have an increase. So if you just compare what we've experienced in the last 12 months, overall, we've experienced a 10% decrease in overall permits, but a 400% increase in total project value.
Okay.
So I guess it's just we have to take the math when we did this study, and I think it's still relevant. And then we will then check back in with our consultant and validate it. And we do check back then with our annual meeting with the Development Impact Fee Committee. So I think that the math is sound, and we can't take the daily weather. We have to divorce kind of a month from
I'm not
a 10-year
questioning
process.
that at all.
I guess.
It just has to do with the logic behind it. But go ahead, Councilman Bruner.
Mayor, and a little more of my bluntness, my love for consultants. So am I hearing you, Patrick, that whatever methodology or calculations, formula that we're using, that we have to do that across the board? Is that legally, we have to do that?
The calculations and our format of our report, we've been doing this report for.
No, you're not answering my question.
Oh,
We legally have to follow this mathematical formula methodology that the consultants have put forth. We have to do that across the board. Are we legally bound?
We are, and the reason for that is because we base the math on the state statute.
Okay, so
the
it's a state
methodology-
statute that
state
makes us
statute dictates, yeah.
legally bound, because, because I'm with the mayor on this. I mean, we don't lower anything unless a year from now we reevaluate, but consultants are not always right, just like polling is not always right. So, but if we are legally bound, I guess our hands are tied.
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Bruner, I think Patrick did a good job of describing it. The
Oh, he
code-
did a great job. I just don't agree with it.
Yeah, the code says you have your capital improvements plan, and that plan has a certain cost. And then you do these projections based on your growth and cost to fund that capital improvement plan. And your study, there is a study that's required to base your impact fees upon. And those calculations are included in code, and the study was done. And that may mean your fees go up sometimes, your fees go down a little bit, depending on the study and the criteria they evaluate. But we have to base our fees on the study. If we were to keep our fees too high and the study says it's lower, then we would be in a legal problem. So we need to follow the study that was provided, the math and the analysis that was done, and
Okay,
if
so
we
the
change-
state is requiring municipalities to follow this. This is state ordinance or?
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Bruner, there is a framework that you have to justify the impact fees based on your capital improvements plan. And there's a study that analyzes all those things. Yes,
Okay.
those are required.
But the allocation of those, so for example, one of the things that I think we've talked about is that we would prefer to see single family and not just more multifamily. So what we're doing is for about the same amount, we are increasing single family and decreasing multifamily, which would almost incentivize the opposite of what we're trying to do in our community. So is that not, could you just not just leave them where they are?
Madam Mayor.
Because with a dollar amount almost the same in our impact fee, you're not allowed to do that?
I think you need to follow the study, because the study is what provides the basis for your fees. They can't be higher than your justification for those fees.
Right, but if we stay within our capital plan, and we're not going over what the capital plan is, which is the fees that we've agreed, they have to match our capital plan. So if we stay within that budget for capital plan, could we not, rather than raising one and lowering the other, just kind of leave them where they are and just make the adjustment between the two? We're not allowed to do that. It has to follow a mathematic something with the study.
Madam Mayor, your fees have to be supported and justified in your study, in your analysis.
Well, and they
Otherwise-
are through our capital plan. It's just the allocation of who's bearing the weight of those fees.
Mayor,
Is
can I interject? We spent several months presenting this to the Impact Fee Advisory Committee.
And
at
this
length.
is where the numbers landed back
This is
then?
where the numbers landed back then, and I can give you some insight. We're looking at in the next 10 years, a net growth rate of 27,184 new people coming to the city of Nampa. Of that, we're looking at approximate number of square foot of residential units. Let's see here, net growth. We're looking at 10,210 new units, and that equates to about 23,224 square foot of residential units. Non-residential square foot, we're looking at 4,594,000 square foot of growth in the next 10 years in all commercial development for buildings.
So
And
the
then they take-
units, the
yeah.
residential units, that is a combination of single-family and multifamily in that right there?
Mayor, that is correct.
Okay.
So Mayor, if this council does not approve this as stated, we don't get impact fees on streets? Is that the bottom line?
Mayor and Councilman Brunner, if you disagree with this, what we could do is we could call the Impact Fee Advisory Committee back together, have our consultant address any concerns, and then we would have to go back through the Impact Fee Advisory Committee process, back through planning and zoning to add it to the capital plan, and then back to you for approval.
We're talking about another 6 months or so.
Likely so, that's correct.
Mayor Kling?
Yeah.
I have a question for Todd. Todd, how can this council be held to a standard amount when the amounts that we're looking at are a guess or an estimate?
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Rodriguez, that's what experts do.
You didn't do a very good job on this one.
Well, I'm not an expert in that field, But you have to have a study that's the foundation of your numbers to support them. If you don't follow that study, you're subject to challenge. You can have discussions about the study, but there's some pluses and there's some minuses here. And that's the nature of a study. Sometimes things go up, sometimes things go down. But these are folks that you've expressed confidence in the past that have done these studies. They have this expertise and training. This is what they came up with.
Is this issue going to go before a public hearing? Or this is it right here?
This is it, yeah.
This is our public hearing tonight.
Okay, well, okay, yeah, okay.
So Mayor Todd, if I may, how soon can this be reevaluated? You know, Patrick mentioned maybe 2 years. I mean, is there any limitation when this can be reevaluated if we feel like it's not, not properly, proper figures, like in 6 months, a year, or is there any limitation?
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Berner, I don't know if I know the answer to that question. It sounds like we have a 2-year practice, but I'd have to look.
I didn't know there was a state law that you could only reevaluate.
I can answer that. By state law, you have to actually review and perform a study every 3 years. We have been doing it on a shorter cycle because there has been significant growth, both back, starting probably back in 2015, 2016, and then continuing through today. So we've actually shortened that schedule. I can pick up the phone tomorrow and we can look at it. The other thing we can do is the trigger for having to go back to the Impact Fee Advisory Committee. I don't know what the threshold of change needs to be, or what the trigger is where I would have to take it back if there's anything super significant. The streets plan has already been vetted, all the capital plan, and so what we were really talking about is who is coming into the town with new growth that is going to pay for that streets plan, and by what percentage.
So just to clarify, and maybe you can answer this, or Tom, the streets impact, if we did not approve this and we left these exactly the way they are, what would be the impact on our streets budget? Because if I remember correctly, there was very little change in our streets impact fee budget this year. Our greatest changes were in other areas, not in streets. Do you know what the impact would be?
I think that if we add up the numbers, I think it's fairly nominal. It's just basically we've swapped around who's paying for what.
Because what I'm noticing is some of our greatest growth is in industrial. And we're reducing the square footage on industrial, and that's where we've got our greatest growth right now and the greatest opportunity for impact fees. So that just confuses me, and I don't know, we actually did a lot of this work prior to the more recent influx we've had in industrial. And I don't know if that was taken into consideration, but it concerns me that we're reducing our price per square foot in the area of greatest growth where we're going to get our greatest impact.
Again, Mayor, it's divvying up who we think is coming in at what percentage. So I'm happy
So the
to-
people that are coming, we're charging less. That's what's confusing to me.
But if you have a 2,200 square foot house versus a 500,000 square foot building, 500,000 times $1.20.
But our citizens said growth needs to fund growth. And so that's where I stand. So, well, this is a public hearing, and I don't think we've opened, no, we did. Let me think about it, because nobody was here and we're in the discussion phase. I got to remember where we are, because I don't want to be out of order.
And again, we do vet this. We meet with planning and zoning. We figure out what's coming on the comprehensive plan. We already knew about the annexation of the industrial properties, and we knew the push for bringing industrial to the table. So all those were known factors when we started this.
Highway 16 development and all that.
May, June,
It's
so.
been a year ago.
A year ago?
No, maybe a year ago. It's been a good 6-9 months ago, but was it in May? when we did
No,
this? I
it was
can't
last June, because we actually developed this proposal, or the study in February of
this year.
Of 21, let's see. No, February 22. So we actually started the process in May of '21. And then we worked through the summer. Then we did all of our internal budgeting for operations to match impact fee capital plans to make sure we had sufficient operational funding to fund, police, parks, and streets.
It's taken a while.
So it's taken a while.
Yeah. So you know what? So I have to, well, do you have a comment?
I have a
Yes.
question for
Yes.
Patrick. It seems like, and I don't know who needs to be lobbied for this, this might be a question for the senator, but it seems like the study ought to follow an assessment schedule of a year behind. If you get 3 years down the road, you could be in a real mess. Seems to me like on this study, if you're saying the study's only done every 3 years.
There was only 2 years between this study and the study prior. And so we've been actually accelerating these studies when there's more dynamic growth. And we likely we'll probably still keep on that 2-year schedule. On the flip side, let's say this is just flat math going from here to 10 years out. If we end up having a stall or a long recession, it could be that we also study it again and we amend it. Because this is just basically taking 2.4% growth for 10 years out.
So Patrick, does the rule or statute say once every 3 years it has to be done, must be done?
That's a minimum, that's the minimum.
That's a minimum.
But we
And
can
so
do
we
it
can
as
step it up
often, we
to
could do it every year if we wanted to.
So did you have a comment?
Yeah, Mayor. So my greatest concern with this is when we think of the north side, we just had a big project presented to us on Thursday. So none of that could have even been a part of this study. And we know that a lot of that is going to be office. And so I feel like if we do this, we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot because there's going to be all this development that we've not collected enough impact fees for, and now we're behind growth again. And that's not what we want to be doing. We want to be ahead of it. So I just don't understand. I don't know. I don't know what our options are, but I'm not okay with that going down on those two, on office and industrial, knowing that we're going to be facing so much of that on the north side in the next 10 years. It's going to be completely different.
So I tell you what I'd like to recommend is that we've not closed the public hearing. Could we ask for a continuance on this particular matter? We could close public hearing or leave it open. Wow, moving it to the next council meeting, we already have, I think, 2 items moved to the next council meeting, but I'd like to do a little bit more research on what we can do with these numbers. And I do want to give my apologies because it's been a while in process coming here, and I'm looking at it with a new lens today. And so I greatly appreciate, Patrick, your work, Ann's work, everybody's work on this. And it's got to be frustrating when you work so hard on it and then coming up and I'm asking a ton of new questions and I'm seeing it through a different lens. But I'm not comfortable personally with us moving forward with this right now. So possibly we continue it to the next council meeting. We come back with some more information and then we make a decision. But for tonight, I think I'd like to ask if there was a motion to continue it.
Mayor, can I
Yes.
interject? For that motion, I think that's fine. We're happy to gather more information so you're comfortable making the right decision. That said, I am out on the 3rd, and it may take a little bit of time to coordinate with Ann. So if we could maybe push it out to the 2nd meeting in October, that would give us sufficient time to answer questions and then also present those questions to you in a one-on-one. And I think what I'm hearing is we want to validate the growth, and then we want to validate the use assumptions that the people we think they were coming in all the 5 categories in the next 10 years, and just validate that that is indeed correct. Again, this is an average over 10 years. It's going to go up and down what types of uses that you have. So it is actually fairly conservative. It doesn't really weight one more so the other, but it is also rooted in really looking close at the comprehensive plan, what properties are already annexed and where we think the annexation is going to occur in the near future within the next 10 years.
So I think I'd like to, and thank you, I think it's better to move it to the 17th anyway because of the size of our agenda on the 3rd. And I would like to look at the assumptions that we made that brought us to the decisions we did, because since we began the process, we have the North Nampa area-specific plan. We have the Highway 16 area-specific plan. we have several industrial developments that have come in addition to our North Nampa industrial area. So I think that we need to go back and look at the assumptions that went into the recommendations for the allocation. And those are pretty new assumptions that have come, I think, since we began the process. So if we could do that. So I would stand, so.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we continue this public hearing to October 17th, and as we gather further information.
Second.
Okay, Todd, is there anything else we need in the motion? Are we good?
We need to state that we keep it open, or?
That was just my question. I didn't know if you were keeping the hearing open or
We'll keep it
closed.
open.
Okay.
Okay. So-
Amend it that we will keep the public hearing open until October 17th.
Thank you. Okay, any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Reynolds? Yes. Summerfield?
Yes.
Bauer? Yes. Bangula?
Yes.
And Brunner?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thanks.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Does he have one more?
We do have one more public hearing, and this is 7-6. This is an action item. This is the fiscal year 2022 year-end budget amendment. And the information is in your packet. Doug will share his screen, I think. Are you going to share a screen? Okay.
Just want to make sure it's readable. Okay, so I think I am the only barrier between you and an early meeting, so I will try and move as succinctly and as informatively as possible. Very first, I wanted to briefly educate before I give the numbers. The budgetary process, whether through an amendment or through the budget cycle, requires that we provide a funding source for any degree of spending we issue as a city. The funding source can be new revenues, fund balance, as long as it is a source of money that we can use as a city to pay for the expenses. My budget can have expenses equaling revenues. I can have revenues greater than the budget, but I can never have expenses greater than revenues. In this case, the total amendment is for $4,895,091. That's the total expense. Out of that, 3.7 is paid for in new revenues, and 1.1 million, 1.156 is coming from fund balance. Most of this, none of this is coming from new taxes. None of it is coming from increased spending of property taxes or increased spending of sales taxes. In this case, what we have is primarily, the biggest driver here is the remainder left over from the fire department in two aspects. In the FY21 budget, or FY22 budget, the council approved $2.8 million of total expenditures for the fire department. By the time we finished the separating functions, the spend had increased to about $3.6 million. So the fire department will cover that through billing a process, but since the monies come through the city and the revenues come back to the city, I have to recognize that in the process. So the very first line is recording of additional revenue from the fire district of $405,000 on top of the additional revenue that was put to the fire district in the first amendment of, I think, $578,000. So it's about $994,000 of new revenue from the fire department that covers all the expenses they incurred above the $2.8 million you approved last year. So that's the very first line of the amendment, is for the fire department additional expenditures and revenues they will be reimbursing to us. The second two lines are very simple. In the Fort Idaho Center and in the Nampa Civic Center, there were two amounts of insurance we needed to account for in the billing, in the budgetary process. We have the ICRIM process we use for all of city insurance, but the Nampa Civic Center and the Fort Idaho Center have separate insurance policies for their various activities, and this is their cost that we need to recognize. It comes out of the proceeds of their activities. So we're not pulling extra money from the city. It's just recording what was being spent out of their activities. The third line, or the fourth line down there, the $447,000, that again is fire department. We collect fire plan revenues, and then we will shift those over, transfer them to the fire department. This is simply recognizing what we collected and what we will be issuing to the fire department. No new taxes on our side.
And Doug, could we state that those are it's plan review. It's a service that the fire department is being done through our development services department. And so they provide a service, we collect the funds, we just need to pay them, but they do it intentionally for us. It's a service they provide.
It's just when it runs to the city, we have to recognize the income and the expense. It's a net zero to us. It's just processing. And the same with the next line, the impact fees. So we pay the impact fees, I think, monthly to the fire department. But what we didn't do is reflect that income and outgo of the impact fees to the fire department. $666,000 was on the books at the beginning of the year, so that came out of the fund balance of impact fees, and the remainder, the collections of $2,120,000, total what we gave to the fire department of $2,786,000. The line below that, $28,000, is just a little bit of incremental collections and usage on the police department. And the final line is $737,000 of new grant revenues and related expenses for various grants, most of this in FJC and other departments across the city. Again, new grants coming in, this is the revenue and the expenses related to it. So that's the total of $4.8 million. Questions?
Mayor Kling. So Doug, the impact fees collected and refunded to fire, why is there a $600,000 difference there? Why are we refunding more to fire than what has been collected?
Because the $666,000 was from impact fees collected in FY21 that we're paying in FY22. We had a fund balance going forward.
So these are rollover dollars then? Okay.
Right.
All right, thanks.
And Kara, me. Doug, so this was not in our packet. No. This is much more explainable to me than what was in our packet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I gave this last week to Shar, and I thought this was in your packet. This was my.
That's why I was hitting it so hard before the council meeting, and that I didn't understand all this stuff that you had put in the packet.
My apologies. I thought this was in the packet meeting. I gave it to you Thursday.
I thought we had an amendment of almost $5 million by the end, so.
That explains the comments. My apologies. I have if you'd like a copy of this, I can give it to you, or.
I would have been much nicer to you before the council.
Okay.
It is important that this is of record. So do the numbers differ from what you're giving tonight and what's in the packet? Are they the same?
The amendment resolution will total the $4,895,000. That is correct. This was meant to be an easier to read format.
Okay.
Right?
So Mayor, also, then what goes in the paper, since I read that this is going in the paper? Is this what goes in?
No. What goes in the paper is the actual resolution.
The ordinance.
The ordinance that goes in, and it's the same, it looks the same as the budget, and what it shows is the beginning of the budget, the changes, and the ending budget for revenues and expenses. And it shows it by fund, but it doesn't give this degree of explanation.
As I inquired with you at the start of the council meeting, so the regular citizen that reads it, that the few that do read the paper, what are they going to assume is that we amended for the year, even though some was a carryover? What's their assumption?
Well, the intent with the publication is to notify the public of a public hearing on the amendment. If they look at that, they would see that with the budget, because the budgetary dollars do increase by $5 million, or 4.8. But the substance of the amendment is delivered to you here in this public hearing, which is that no new taxes were raised, no new costs. This is essentially pass-through dollars from one source or another, or new revenues coming in from grants.
Okay, but that is not necessarily explained in the newspaper.
No, and it never has been, to my knowledge. It's.
I just like that. To me, that's total transparency, and it would make anyone that did read that feel better. The Huberts of the world. Okay.
My office is always open for questions.
Mayor Kling.
I think in the future, we'll just, the amendment summary should be included with the document. That way it helps it with the clarity. But it
was. I don't know why you didn't get it.
okay, maybe I'm missing it.
I know, if you didn't get it, you get it. I sent it to Shar and Nathan last week, but I may not have explained clarity. But I don't know. I know that I sent it with
Okay,
the
so-
explanation, this tab be included in the packets, and I don't know why it wasn't.
You don't know why it wasn't, okay.
I'll find out. Maybe I did something incorrect, maybe it just got missed. I'll find out.
Thank you. Okay, any
Mayor
other
Kling?
questions? Yes.
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 I'll just go like this for.
Sorry.
Okay, so I got a call from the RV committee for the Fort Idaho Center.
Right.
Curtis Homer and Sherry Boardman, and they were concerned that they did not see the additional 500,000 in the amended budget.
Okay.
I think I believe it's already in there. but
Let's
they
come
just wanted
down
us-
to this next section right here, the very last 5 lines on the screen here. There are 4 items I need to mention to you that are included by reference in the amendment to reserve the funds. The first 2 are for the golf course, $3.1 million from the golf course fund, and 3.1 from general gov, and $3 million from the golf course fund for the anticipated purchase of the golf course. Those are included by reference, so I can restrict these funds out of general gov at the end of the year and reserve them for the payment to the golf course.
Okay.
The third one is the $1 million of general fund monies reserved for the horse park. They didn't get that quite off the ground before 9:30, but they will. So I'm reserving the money and getting it out of the unrestricted fund. And the final one is the $5.2 million for the Fleets Street building that is under progress. Those I want all reserved and out of the general unrestricted fund.
Okay, thank you. Acceptably.
Perfect. So the motion tonight, when we approve the amended budget, includes the fund balances being removed from unrestricted funds as of 9:30. So are there any other questions for Doug right now? Okay, so this was the applicant staff report. So Doug, we're going to move into the public hearing, and I don't believe there is anyone signed up to testify this evening. And so with that, are there any further questions for Doug? And was there anyone here this evening that wanted to testify in the public hearing? Marjorie, you're just smiling and you're sitting there so sweet tonight.
She's got something thinking in there.
You're thinking, yeah. You're not going to. Well, thank you guys for being here. So with that, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, what is the will of the council? And then I think we want to make sure that okay, so we've got 2 things that are going to happen tonight. One, I would like a motion to approve the amendment as submitted, along with the fund balances removed from unrestricted funds as of 9:30. And we'll do a roll call on that. And then we're going to do the first reading of the ordinance, and it'll be requested to pass under suspension of rules after we do that. So I'd stand for a motion or not, whatever the will of the council is regarding the budget amendment.
Make a motion to approve the budget amendment as prepared and presented to us this evening.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the budget amendment as presented to us this evening. Any discussion? Roll call.
Bauer?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Angula?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
And Haverfield?
Yes.
The next action item will be the first reading of the ordinance adopting the FY 2022 budget amendment, and it is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
An ordinance amending the appropriation of funds for the 12-month period from the first day of October 2021 to and inclusive the 30th day of September 2022 to defray the expenses and liabilities of the City of Nampa for said fiscal year, specifying the objects and purposes for which said appropriation is made, authorizing a levy of sufficient tax upon the taxable property, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, directing the city clerk to file certified copies of this ordinance with the county commissioners and Idaho Secretary of State, providing an effective date, references and sources, and use of funds and appropriating monies, specifying a process for expenditure of funds and establishing an effective date.
Make a motion to pass the ordinance as read under suspension of rules.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Angula?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
And Haverfield?
Yes, no, this isn't.
And with that, I believe that we have concluded all the work of the agenda this evening, and we are done really early, which is a big wow. So with that, I'd stand for a motion to adjourn.